Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. This is another filler video after reorganizing my videos. I'm working on series number 150 right now, but I had several holes back in 2013, 2014 I need to fill in when I consolidated the videos. So this book, quite amazing book, The Population Bomb. Population Control or Race to Oblivion. While you are reading these words, 4 people will have died from starvation, most of them children. Dr. Paul Ehrlich. So when was this published? 1968. A lot happened back then. The world was changing. The CIA was involved with other secret societies, and not all CIA people, but other elites in government and private wealthy people were involved in delivering LSD, heroin, cocaine, marijuana to the world's people, especially in America, changing our society. We had the hippie movement. Over in Europe, it was called festivals. So somebody was changing the world, but they also had this issue to deal with. So do you think that's why they were changing the world? So I thought I'd look at a couple other books and see what else was going on back then. Constance Coombe wrote a book, The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow. We're all aware of the Rainbow Coalition and the New Age material. And she wrote this in 1983. So obviously it took her a few years of research. So between the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, the world was changing, and it was changing intentionally. What does this book have to do with this book? Promoting the gay agenda, sexuality, and a declining birth rate have to do with the population bomb. Everything. And is this a real concern, or is it some kind of satanic push for changing our society to bring about this new world order that the elites, Zionists, communists, Illuminati, secret societies, Satanists, high-level Freemasonry people, Rosicrucians, Theophist Society into the Luciferian doctrine? I think these two books here are tied together. What else was going on? Well, apparently there was a crashed UFO at Roswell, New Mexico. I've been there. This is series number 16. I just made this video. Another one of the fillers. I had to fill in the blanks of my series. And apparently, according to this book, they were reverse engineering some kind of technology they acquired off of the crashed craft. It's a crazy world back then. That's a crazy world now. And another book by a Jewish author in Canada, Henry Macau, PhD, he writes a book, Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. So how long has the Illuminati worked to take over the world? And what does the Illuminati have to do with UFO and aliens? I believe everything. And they have something to do with the population bomb propaganda and the propaganda to suppress, eliminate, discredit Christianity and other religions. In the meantime, the government was into some psychic research of its own. It was training people to leave their bodies and travel into the past, into the future, and other places around the planet and spy on people and do other psychic abilities. possibly even taking possession of somebody's body and controlling them, making them kill somebody else or do a terrorist act. Can they do that? Would they do that? Another book review I made, series number 6, Remote Viewing, Tim Rifat. Same thing. Actually, this is Tim Rifat. I forgot the David Morehouse book. Well, here's the correct book. Psychic Warrior, another remote viewer trained by the government who tells all. Series number 10. I just made this video. Then Webster Griffin Tarpley writes about Synthetic Terror 911. I was watching a video this morning, and apparently most of the wars and terror events we have can be traced back to these secret societies. Insiders of the government planning these events. Again, trying to bring us this new world order. And it was so concerning after World War II, series number 28 of my videos, report from Iron Mountain. So all these events I'm showing you, overpopulation, environmental issues, terrorism, environmental destruction, it's all in this book. Part of the planning, the techniques and tools they would use to keep the people in line and under control, following the new propaganda, destroying religion, Christianity, Jesus, and bringing us this new age. And a book review I recently did, The Limits of Growth, series 27. More evidence by the Club of Rome, another secret society, which apparently controls the Council of Foreign Relations, which handles the affairs of the foreign affairs of America, staffed with people from the secret societies. Now, what else are they doing since the 60s and 70s and 80s? Building underground bases and all kinds of black projects, even working to put mercury in vaccines, fluoride in the water, taking over the medical establishment. Murder by injection, Eustace Mullins, a well-known author, wrote many books. Series number 15. Another book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins. He talks about, from the 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond, they were trying to get the world's leaders, all these countries, to borrow money, promising them great GNP, gross national product, that the country would make a lot of money, the people would become wealthy and live better lives. Well, it didn't happen, and it was meant to bankrupt the countries to bring us the New World Order. It's all in here. Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola. Leonard Horowitz, big thick book. I read this a long time ago. Series number 17. Go watch my video. Or look up Leonard Horowitz's videos and watch him speak himself. The documented evidence, they've been inventing and working on these different plagues, viruses, and all that as biological weapons in laboratories and testing it on us and using them. Do they have plans for the future to depopulate the planet? Another video, book review I did was on Clouds to Secrecy. Leonard Cole, another insider who talks about the Army's germ warfare tests over populated areas. I wanted to just look at all these for a moment before I read from this book. So when I read from this book, you'll see how all these other books and many of my other videos apply to this conversation. Unbelievable. You're not going to believe what I'm going to read next. All right. Well, before I start reading from the Population Bomb and realizing that this series is Freemasonry and Satanism, I want to point out that this is a Scottish Rite Freemasonry magazine, 1962, called The New Age. And Albert Pike, the leader of the Freemasons, I've made many videos on his book, The Bible for the Freemasons, Morals and Dogma. Anyways, they admit that Lucifer is their deity. The Theophist Society even created a magazine, Lucifer Magazine, and a publishing company called Lucifer Publishing Company. And more tying all this together. This book, Project Bluebeam, The Marijuana Conspiracy, Climate Gate. Project Bluebeam is planning on some fake alien invasion. Part of all this New Age propaganda, channeling Palladians, Arcturians, Orions. Meanwhile, they were publishing books like this, many of them, and I believe they were using those books as teaching materials for our leaders and other people to convince them that the world is about to pop like a balloon, like a bomb, because there's just too many people. Meanwhile, they're involved in cloning and genetics, trying to redesign a new type of human being. So I'm just going to read from one chapter here, chapter 4. I have been reading this book the last couple days, and it's astonishing. All right, chapter 4 says what needs to be done. Before I do that, I'll just go look in the index here and read you what President Eisenhower said. What do these people believe? As a result of lower infant mortality, longer lives, and the accelerating conquest of famine, there is underway a population explosion so incredible, great, that in little more than another generation, the population of the world is expected to double. All right, Sir Julian Huxley. Overpopulation is, in my opinion, the most serious threat to the whole future of our species. Lowell Summer. As a biologist, the human population explosion and its declining spiral of natural resources is to me the greatest threat of all. So here we had World War II. Again, artificially instigated. They planned it. World War I, artificially instigated. They planned it. Revolutions before that in the 1800s and early 1900s, Russia, France, and others instigated and planned. 9/11 instigated and planned. And they're writing a book called The Population Bomb. What do you believe? The time is ripe, even dangerously overripe, as far as the population control problem is concerned. We shall have to face up or ultimately perish. And what a dreary, stupid, unlovely way to perish. On a ruined globe, stripped of its primal beauty. I could read more here, but I think you get the point. So chapter 4, what needs to be done? Think about it. They're into remote viewing. They can see into the future. They can see into the past. Freemasons, other organizations, the Illuminati, Council of Foreign Relations, Skull and Bones, and many others, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Heritage Foundation, Bilderberger Group, Bohemian Grove, Club of Rome. I could go on for a while. And these secret societies, communism, Zionism, Kabbalistic people into the occult. These secret societies are where they pull our leaders from. People that they can rely on to work, apparently work against we masses of people who are ignorant to the real happenings in the world. A general answer to the question, what needs to be done, is simple. We must rapidly bring the world population under control, reducing the growth rate to zero and making it go negative. Conscious regulation of human numbers must be achieved. Think about this now. They were bringing us marijuana, LSD, heroin back in those early years after World War II. This book was published in 1968. I bet the people weren't informed about all this. All right, conscious regulation of human numbers must be achieved. Simultaneously, we must, at least temporarily, greatly increase our food production. This agricultural program should be carefully monitored to minimize deleterious effects, dangerous effects, destructive effects on the environment, and should include an effective program of ecosystem restoration. Well, that sounds like common sense. As these projects are carried out, an international policy research program must be initiated to set optimum population environmental goals for the world and to devise methods for achieving these goals, for reaching these goals. So remember, these are the secret society elites who are in charge of the USA government, not keeping the USA people informed on any of these issues or the plans. So the answer to the question is simple: getting the job done. Unfortunately, it's going to be complex beyond belief, if indeed it can be done. What follows in this chapter are some ideas on how these goals might be reached and a brief assessment of our chances of reaching them. So remember, about this time, Israel, through the United Nations, was created. Took them World War I, World War II, and a couple hundred years of work before that. And they were starting a program called Aliyah, which is the return. So Jews from all over the world, after 2,000 plus years of a diaspora, being dispersed from that area, were returning home. So you got one thing going on with the same secret societies in charge, and another thing going on. So Israel's trying to grow into a nation, a few thousand people into the millions, and the rest of the world are trying to reduce the population. You get it? One goes down, disappears eventually, and the other one goes up. Part of prophecy, you think? Okay, the key to the whole business, in my opinion, is held by the United States. And remember what Prime Minister Sharon of Israel said in a heated argument in his Congress. Don't worry about the USA, we control the USA. And go read Webster Tarpley's 911 synthetic tariff and see that Israel, intelligence agents and others, and even inside people in our own government were involved in 911. All this, there's a purpose to it. And listen to some of the channeled entities on Yahoo websites or YouTube, and listen to what they're saying. The old age is gone. The new age is coming. What about the Simon Perez, who says that nationalism is gone, globalism is in, and we don't have a choice, and those who don't accept it will be poor and irrelevant. I showed that video in several of my videos. We are the most influential superpower. We are the richest nation in the world. At the same time, we are also just one country on an ever-shrinking planet. It is obvious that we cannot exist unaffected by the fate of our fellows on the other end of the good ship Earth. If their end of the ship sinks, we shall, at the very least, listen to this, have to put up with the spectacle of their drowning and listen to their screams. That's what they're worried about? If these other countries, if a country fail? Communication satellites guarantee that we will be treated to the sights and sounds of mass starvation on the evening news, just as we now can see Viet Cong corpses being disposed of in living color and listen to the groans of our own wounded. We're unlikely, however, to get off with just our appetites spoiled and our consciences disturbed. We're going to be sitting on top of the only food surpluses available for distribution, and those surpluses will not be large. In addition, it is not unreasonable to expect our level of affluence to continue to increase over the next few years as the situation in the rest of the world grows ever more desperate. I did look at some graphs on Yahoo image site, and they say the Asian countries and some other third world countries, their population, they show curves like this, if you can believe it. Huge growths, tangents. But here in the United States, just very little growth, and apparently we're declining. So they're importing people from India and the Middle East into the United States, Canada, the rest of the world, Europe. So actually, because of the hippie movement and the change of society, Europe and the United States and other developed countries, that the population is decreasing, which apparently was intentional, and they want to dilute our culture and depopulate the Middle East for a greater Israel. All a plan, I keep saying. Can we guess what effect this growing disparity will have on our shipmates in the underdeveloped countries? Will they gradually starve? Will they starve gracefully without rocking the boat? Or will they attempt to overwhelm us in order to get what they consider to be their fair share? Now remember, when you read this, this is propaganda. You can't just read these books and believe what they say. You got to look behind the message. That's why I had this opening on all those other topics. We, of course, cannot remain affluent and isolated. At the moment, the United States uses well over half of all the raw materials consumed each year. Think of it, less than 1/15 of the population of the world requires more than all the rest to maintain its inflated position. If the present trends continue, in 20 years, we will be much less than 1/15 of the population, and yet we may use 80% of the resources consumed. Again, you got to listen to this message. All those countries all over the world, Brazil, Russia, Afghanistan, apparently there's just an enormous amount of wealth and minerals in those mountains. That was published material. And with satellite systems that can x-ray the ground. No, I think there are solutions to these problems. I think there's a different game afoot. UFOs, aliens, captured technologies that they're developing. Apparently our government and scientists are 100 years ahead in technology than they let on with we the people. But there is a plan to get rid of all the current humans that they deem useless food eaters. The elites intend on getting rid of everybody else. So it seems. Our affluence depends heavily on many different kinds of imports. Metals used to make various kinds of steel, tin, aluminum ore, rubber, and so forth. Will other countries, many of them in the grip of starvation and anarchy, why are they in the grip of starvation and anarchy? Still happier supply happily supply those materials to a nation that cannot give them food. Even the technological optimists don't think we can free ourselves of the need for imports in the near future. So we're going to be up against it. But then, at least our balance of payment should improve. So beside our own serious population problem, we are intimately involved in the world crisis. So there's little hints here. They want a one world government. Nothing new about that. They've been working on this for hundreds of years. They've had other world empires before. Hitler was trying to do it. Rome did it. Alexander the Great did it. Genghis Khan did it. We are involved through our import-export situation. We are involved through our import-export situation. We are involved because the possibilities of global ecological catastrophe, of the global pestilence, and the global thermonuclear war. So think about that book I showed you, Iron Mountain. Report from Iron Mountain. See, the problem they had was after World War II and they exploded the 2 nuclear warheads, they thought that they wouldn't be able to have any more wars because it was too insane to just have a nuclear war. So they had to find a different way to create fear and suffering to keep the humans in line. That's why all these things have been happening. And to change legislation and to try to remove the Bill of Rights and the USA Constitution. They have plans for this Jewish utopia, Zionist utopia, elite utopia. And apparently it's with the Illuminati and other secret societies that are into Satanism and Luciferianism. And I'm not making that up. You can go on YouTube. You can go watch some of my many 500 hours of videos. I've come to the conclusion that this is what it is. After 13 years of trying to find out what the heck is going on. It is a cosmic battle between some kind of beings, and even Cryon was mentioning today, one of the channelers I listen to, that the Palladians are out there, the Orions, the Octorians. So what are we dealing with? Who are these entities? Are they Lucifer beings, satanic beings, reptilian, Anunnaki, gray aliens? Why do they want to depopulate planet Earth? Like the Georgia USA Guidestones say. All right, back to the book. So we are involved because of the possibilities of global ecological catastrophe, of global pestilence, and of global thermonuclear war. 1968. So apparently these people who control our planet are really not trying to fix problems. They've been causing problems for their own agenda. 1968. And of global thermonuclear war. Also, we are involved because of the humanitarian feelings of most Americans. We're going to face some extremely difficult but unavoidable decisions. So I guess they had some tough decisions when they planned and executed 9/11, blamed it on the Arabs, and how many people have died since then. By how much and at what environmental risk should we increase our food production in an attempt to feed the starving? How much should we reduce the grain furnishing of beef in order to have more food for export? How will we react when asked to balance the lives of 1 million Latin Americans against, say, a 30% per pound rise in the average price of beef? Will we be willing to slaughter our dogs and cats in order to divert pet food protein to the starving masses in Asia? If these choices are presented one at a time out of context, I predict that our behavior will be selfish. Men do not seem to be able to focus emotionally on distant or long-term events. Immediacy seems to be necessary to elicit selfless responses. Few Americans could sit in the same room with a child and watch it starve to death. Are you hearing what I'm reading? But the death of several million children this year from starvation is a distant, impersonal, hard-to-grasp event. You will note that I put quotes around selfish and selfless. The words describe the behavior only out of context. The selfless actions necessary to aid the rest of the world and stabilize the population are our only hope for survival. The selfish ones work only toward our destruction. Ways must be found to bring home to all American people the reality of the threat to their way of life, indeed to their very lives. And Paul Ehrlich, Dr. Paul Ehrlich, is very much involved with the communist, New World Order, New Age, socialist deception. So when you read this stuff, and my point of making this video and including this in the series, as I was doing my research over the years, watching videos, this was one of the books I discovered, and it helped fill in the holes for me to see the big picture, what's going on, what kind of propaganda is out there, what are they trying to do, what do they think? And obviously we can see what they think by the title of this book. And now it's 2017. Where'd the bomb go? America, North America, Europe, populations are declining. Intentionally planned, as per this book tells us. Ways must be found to bring home to all American people the reality of the threat to their way of life, indeed to their very lives. So they want all the American people to think of this as a desperate situation. Obviously, our first step must be to immediately establish and advertise drastic policies designed to bring our own population size under control. We must define a goal of a stable optimum population size for the United States and display our determination to move rapidly towards that goal. So I suspect one of those ways was bringing us the hippie movement and other movements and supplying LSD, opium, heroin, marijuana, alcohol, creating the society we have today. Dumbing down of America. So moving rapidly toward that goal. Such a move does two things at once. It improves our chances of obtaining the kind of country and society we all want, and it sets an example for the world. The second step, to adopt some very tough foreign policy positions relative to the population control, and we must do it from a physiological strong position, psychologically strong position. We will want to disarm one group of opponents at the outset, those who claim that we wish others to stop breeding while we go merrily ahead. So if they want to reduce the population, they're going to have to disarm them. We want our propaganda based on do as we do, not do as we say. So the first task is population control at home. How do we go about it? Many of our colleagues feel that some sort of compulsory birth regulation would be necessary to achieve such control. Can you see how the gay agenda fits in there? And all this other stuff about the fear-mongering about biodiversity, sustainability, going green, global warming, economic collapse. Somebody's designing a new world. I showed you the Freemason magazine, New Age. So that involves the Freemasons. We know it involves the Illuminati. And that's part of the Zionist communist groups of people. Not all Jewish people. There are different tribes. Remember, Jesus was Jewish. And if most of us Christians, 1/3 of the world, then we believe in a Hebrew man who is the Messiah. How can that make any Christian an anti-Semite? To believe that there are tribes of Hebrews and other people, Khazars from Khazaria, who adopted the Jewish religion 1,000 years ago, up there by Ukraine and Russia and Poland and Germany. A whole area. Very barbaric people back then, 1,000 years ago. They all became Jews at the decree from the king. So are they, which tribe are they, Jews are they? Are they God-believing Jews? Or have they gone to the dark side, Luciferic, satanic, Kabbalistic, mysticism, occult? If you were a barbaric people, which way would you have chosen? Many of my colleagues feel that some sort of compulsory birth regulation would be necessary to achieve such control. And again, I'm reading this so we can look at the mind of these people back then in 1968. It helps explain a lot of things going on. Even the assassination of President John Kennedy in '63, who wanted to expose the secret societies that he said was repugnant. One plan often mentioned involves the addition of temporary sterilants to water supplies or staple food. Temporary sterilants to our water supplies, and they're going to do this first to America. Are you okay with that? Doses of the antidote would be carefully rationed by the government to produce the desired population size. So that makes you wonder what they put in the chemtrails, the sky spraying material, if this is the way they think. Those of you who are appalled at such a suggestion can rest easy. The option isn't even open to us thanks to the criminal inadequacy of biomedical research in this area. They've gone leaps and bounds ahead in this biological research. If people only knew. 5G networks coming out. What kind of detrimental effect will those microwave frequencies have on we the people if it's intended to permeate every aspect of our society? Those short waves can go right through your house like an X-ray, right through your body, right through your cells. You think cell phone towers and Gwen towers and cell phones and wireless and HARP transmitters are evil and bad? Apparently this 5G is going to take it to the next step, probably involving microchipping people and hooking everybody up to the beast computer. Just from my research and the many books, Project Bluebeam, Alien Fake Invasion, The Marijuana Conspiracy. You can go get this book. Climate Gate. I don't make this stuff up. I just research and report. It might be possible to develop such population control tools, although the task would not be simple. Either the additive would have to operate equally well and with minimum side effects against both sexes. So whatever they secretly put in our food or our water or our air, they want it to have minimal side effects. And remember, the birth rate in the USA and Europe is doing this. And they're bringing us all the Middle Easterners into our societies. All described in the Jewish Utopia, Protocols of Zion, and so many other books. They want to get rid of our Christian culture. And apparently the Muslims' culture. And according to Aleister Crowley, the Hindus and the Buddhist cultures. This Luciferic satanic culture wants it all, a new age and a new world order, globalization. Involving some kind of entities. Who are the Palladians? Who are the Arcturians? Who are the Orions? Who are the Anunnaki? Who are the reptilians? Who are the gray aliens? Are we dealing with the issues that are mentioned in the Bible? Fallen angels, archons, watchers, masters. What's it have to do with population bomb? I believe everything. Okay, so they want this additive they put in our food or water with minimal side effects to both sexes, or some way would have to be found to direct it only to one sex and shield the other. Well, it sounds like some insidious planning going on here. Knowing what we know about the dreams of the new Israel to dominate and control the world, as that video, Simon Peres, the three-time president of Israel, said. So I think I'll play that video right now so you can see that it's not me. Globalization is here, and the people who don't go along will be poor and irrelevant. He's telling us, and who is he? Three-time president of Israel. One of the leaders of the world. He's dead probably now.
There are significant political changes on the map from day to day. First it was Tunisia, then Egypt, Libya, now Syria. What do all those changes mean for the Middle East? And all that's happening, is it positive for Israel?
Yes. I mean, there may be a transitional period that will create some difficulties, but in the long run, yes, look. It's not that those countries are changing. All countries are changing because the world has changed. And nobody has a choice, either to go with the modern age or to lag behind and really become poor and irrelevant. What's happening is, you know, governments are no longer controlling their own economy. Instead of a national economy, you have a global economy. Now, if you want to enter, you have to follow the new rules of economy.
Exactly.
As you can see, I watch a lot of Father or Brother Nathaniel's videos. He's put out a lot of good ones lately. And he was Jewish, converted to Christianity. So he knows what's going on. All right, feeding protein male hormones to the whole population might sterilize and defeminize the women, while the upside in the male population, while the upset in the male population and society as a whole can well be imagined. Defeminize the women. Apparently they're feminizing the men with all that propaganda with the Rainbow Coalition, transgenderism, pansexualism, pedophilia, all that crazy stuff during the last presidential election in the USA, spirit cooking, Pizzagate. These people into these satanic cults are into some very strange things, like the Series 23 I made. The Book of the Law, Aleister Crowley, known as the evilest man alive. Some of these things they do to children, sacrificing, eating, sex, whatever, is part of some kind of satanic ritual. Even with the Illuminati. But this stuff's been documented throughout history. So what kind of beings are behind this? In addition, care would have to be taken to see to it that the sterilizing substance did not reach livestock either through water or garbage. So they'll sterilize we humans. But God forbid they sterilize the cows or goats or chickens. Technical problems aside, I suspect you'll agree with me that society would probably dissolve before sterilants were added to the water supply by the government. Just consider the fluoridation controversy. So even back here in 1968, there was a fluoride controversy, putting fluoride in the water. Hitler did that during the war to make the prisoners lethargic. Remember, fluoride from tin causes Alzheimer's. So if they're putting it in the water, what's that mean for we the people? It makes us tired, fatigued, lethargic, and slow. You think that's what they want? Or do they want intelligent, alert humans? That would create a problem for their little solution to the population bomb. Just consider the flu controversy. Some other way will have to be found. Perhaps the most workable system will be to reverse the government's present system of encouraging reproduction and replace it with a series of financial rewards and penalties designed to discourage reproduction. So clearly we can see how this gay agenda and all the propaganda comes into play. And they are trying to destroy Christianity. That was acknowledged in 1910, 1920s during the communist hearings. Who were the communists? They were the Zionists. They are the Illuminati. They are the people into the Kabbalah and mysticism. And to clearly understand it, I call it witchcraft. Although I'm not opposed to shamans and other things, believing in God and praying, isn't that some kind of psychic ability? So I say witchcraft just to show that there are people with these types of knowledges in communication with some kind of beings that are bent on dominating the world. And they don't have any problem sterilizing the rest of us, as it says right here. For instance, we could reverse our present system of tax exemptions. Since taxes in essence purchase services from the government, and since large families require more services, why not make them pay for them? Do you trust the people in charge of our world right now? There are so many talk show hosts on YouTube videos who are exclaiming there are very few, if any, people in Congress or the House of Representatives or the presidents elected or the CEOs of huge corporations and other elites that are looking out for we the people. Apparently, we have become the target, the enemy. Third World War will be between the governmental powers and their own people to depopulate them for their future utopia. Doesn't sound too good, does it? The present system was designed at a time when larger population size was not viewed as undesirable. But no sane society wants to promote large population size today. I don't believe in this overpopulation issue. I think they're fabricating those numbers, just like they fabricate the global warming information and the lies about 9/11, World War I, World War II, and so much more. That's what I think. You can't just read a book like this and say, assume that they're telling us the truth. Consider what they've already done, the deception, and the books out there, the plans for this elite utopia. I suppose they would like a huge planet all to themselves, nobody on the beach to annoy them. These elites have a very strange mentality thinking, very egotistical and arrogant and selfish. Apparently that's part of the reptilian DNA. They don't have empathy or care for other people. So like Fritz Springmeier's book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, are we dealing with some kind of interesting bloodline descendants of Cain from Adam and Eve. Cain slew Abel, the first murderer, who was the son of Sataniel, according to the Rosicrucian material. And the rest of us, Adam and Eve, had a third son after Cain slew Abel, called Seth. So part of the story goes, a lot of us are the descendants of Seth, which was produced by Adam and Eve, and Cain was produced by Eve and Satan, Sataniel, according to the Rosicrucian material I went over on that book review, 140. Go watch it. See the book. You learn so much when you research. The new system would be quite simple, but of course not retroactive. For each of the first 2 children, an additional $600 would be added to the taxable income, figure from which the taxes are calculated. For each subsequent child, $1,200 would be added. In order to prevent hardship, minimal levels would be established, guaranteeing each family enough for food, clothing, and shelter. Well, that's kind of them. Therefore, a family with 3 children and only $4,000 in income might pay little or no taxes, but parents making $25,000 who had 10 children would pay for their reproductive irresponsibility by forking over the taxes of $35,800. I guess that would be something to make people reconsider having another child. In short, the plush life would be difficult to attain for those with large families, which is as it should be, since they are getting their pleasure from their children, who are being supported in part by more responsible members of society. You think you're going to like the Hunger Games reality, communism, the New World Order, New Age? You might want to think again. On the top of the income tax reversal, luxury taxes should be placed on Liettes, cribs, diapers, diaper services, expensive toys, always with the proviso that the essentials be available without penalty to the poor, just as free food is now. There would, of course, have to be considerable experimenting on the level of financial pressure necessary to achieve the population goals. So you have to pay the government if you have too many kids. To the penalties could be added some incentives. The government first marriage grant could be awarded each couple in which the age of both parent partners was 25 or more. Responsibility prizes could be given to each couple for each 5 years of childless marriage, or to each man who accepted irreversible sterilization, a vasectomy, before having more than 2 children. Wow, this is 1968. And do I have to really tell you who controls the USA? The secret societies, the Illuminati, the communists, the Zionists. I've gone over so many books. And they do have a plan of this new utopia. Apparently, the headquarters in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, it's a religious thing. And apparently they're expecting some Antichrist entity to arrive. You got to look at the whole picture, but look what they're saying in this book. Or special lotteries might be held, tickets going only to the childless. Adoption could be subsidized and made a simple procedure, considering the savings in school buildings, pollution control, unemployment compensation, and the like. These grants would be money-making propositions. But even if they weren't, the price would be a small one to pay for saving our nation. Well, I'll say another truth here since World War II. And Project Paperclip, getting all those German scientists. Russia was all over Germany, scurrying to get them. France was after some. Argentina, Britain, the USA. Of course, USA was in a prime position. It probably got the best lot of these scientists. And they all had all these black projects going on in the USA. Apparently UFO and other technological developments, including biological plagues and other weaponries. So just think about what's going on in this hand while they're talking about this hand, wanting to reduce the USA population where it was by no means overpopulated. This was a vast country back then and quite empty, and it still is today. Go on a plane ride. And they've had to import people from India because our population's been going down. And the Arabs and other peoples from Mexico and South America. And the politicians publicly say this. The birth rate has fell off the cliff. We have to do this. So were they really trying to wipe out the Christian culture in America and maybe the Muslim culture in the Middle East? Is it a religious thing, a satanic Luciferic issue? So what's that got to do with Palladians, Octorians, Anunnaki, gray aliens, Lucifer, Satan, Watchers, Archons, fallen angels, Nephilim, stuff mentioned in the Bible, and hieroglyphics in Egypt on the pyramids, and pyramids in the Yucatan, Mexico, Peru, China, India, all over the world. I've been making videos on these books, on these topics. So they're leaving out a lot here. They're just basically trying to get rid of certain different cultures. Obviously, such measures would need coordination by a powerful governmental agency. A Federal Department of Population and Environment, the DPE, should be set up with the power to take whatever steps necessary to establish a reasonable population size in the United States and to put an end to the steady deterioration of our environment. Wasn't it all the huge corporations that were dumping all the pollutants into the waterways, lakes, streams, rivers? It was never you or I, we citizens. The DPE, the Department of Population and Environment, would be giving ample funds to support research in the areas of population control and environmental quality. In the first area, it would promote intensive investigation of new techniques of birth control, possibly leading to the development of mass sterilization agents, such as were discussed above. This research will not only give us better methods to use at home, they are absolutely essential if we are to help the Department of Population and to help the underdeveloped countries to control their populations. So they had the plans to do this all over the world. Many peoples lack the incentive to use the pill. A program requiring daily attention just will not work. This is one reason why a papal decision from the Pope to accept the pill, but not other methods of birth control, would be only a small step in the right direction. So you wonder where all this thinking comes from on all these issues. Who's pulling the strings recently, 2017, August, getting the Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, KKK, white supremacist group, and other peoples organized to incite hate because they need people to get more hateful and cause more riots and destruction so they can enact martial law, so they can make any hate speech a crime so nobody can talk about stuff like this. The people are the enemy, so it seems. The people not involved in the New Age and New World Order. A lot of people are involved in the New Age. They don't know what they're doing. They're being told lies. Go watch some of the channelers. Cryon, Esther Hicks, and see how they say the old ways are gone. They're no longer useful in this New Age. In the New Age, this ascension is here now. Or the president of Israel, Simon Peres, in the video you just watched. If you don't go along with this world government, you're going to be poor and irrelevant. That was planned back. I got books before this book was written 100, 200 years ago. My next video, eventually, will be The Cause of World Unrest, published in 1920. So those same forces who brought us World War I, World War II, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, and wars during the 1800s, and taking over the banking system in Germany during the 1800s, and taking over the banking system in the USA in 1913 during the Christmas holiday, creating the Federal Reserve, which wasn't federal, and crashing the system at least 8 times, reaping all that wealth, making all the people poor who had saved up money and invested in things. What do you think a crash does? Things that you have financed or leveraged, you can't make the payments anymore. These elite banksters just take it. They have a plan. They've been using those plans. This is part of their plans. But I can say it and say it. Once I get done with this book review on this book, part 1, I'll put it back on the shelf and move on to another book, and maybe someday I'll come back and make another video on this book. Gotta pace myself. Alright, so the Department of Population and Environment, police, also would encourage more research on human sex determination, and if a simple method could be found to guarantee that firstborn children were males, then population control problems in many areas would be somewhat eased. Well, that doesn't sound fair to the females. In our country and elsewhere, couples with only female children keep trying, hoping to have a son. 2 other functions of the Department of Population and Environment would be to aid Congress in developing legislation relating to population and environment, and to inform the public of the needs of such legislation. Some of these needs are already apparent. We need a federal law guaranteeing the right of any woman to have an abortion. This is 1968. So you can see their issue was eliminating the population growth, or was it to just start eliminating some of we Christians and other good people, not of their DNA, the people who want this utopia. It was a sneaky way, using this propaganda, to legally start killing people. That's what some people are saying. And it seems like it's true. Look at 9/11 and all the destruction that went on in all those Middle Eastern countries. And who is ever still alive, where are they shipping them off to now? It's created some interesting news in the press releases, TV, books, plenty of evidence this is going on. Any right to have an abortion, if it is approved by a physician. We need federal legislation guaranteeing the right to voluntarily sterilization for both sexes and protecting physicians who perform such operations from legal harassment. We need a federal law requiring sex education in schools. Sex education that includes discussion of the need for regulating the birth rate and of the technique of birth control. Such education should begin at the earliest age recommended by those who professional competence in these areas, certainly before the junior high school. I'll continue reading from the book, but I want to show a couple pictures. It should be clear that the powers that be want this globalization, a new world order. And apparently the masses of people, even the Middle Easterners, South Americans, Central Americans, North Americans, white people, Europeans, they want that population to decline. And they recently, after World War II, finally, after a lot of effort, World War I, World War II, and more effort prior to that, during the 1800s, 1700s, they acquired their homeland, the Palestinians' land, to create the State of Israel. So this population needs to go away, go down, and like you can see on this TV screen, eventually disappear. This population in Israel needs to go up and up. And I've got pictures to prove that these people are trying to increase their population. Well, we have books here saying that other populations need to be decreased. You can't argue with that. So they have a program called Aliyah in Israel. That's the return after 2,500 plus or minus years of the diaspora being dispersed. This is a religious thing, and even Satanism and Luciferian is a religion. So when they talk about equality and the freedom of religion, they're also talking about Satanism and Luciferianism and whatever else may be out there, whatever beings or demons, Moloch, Baal, the devil, they may worship. So you don't know who's behind the scenes plotting against we the people of the world. But in Israel, they have plane loads of people coming from all over the world. And there's a lot of incentives to get them to move from Germany, from Hungary, from Austria, and Poland, and Ukraine, and Russia. They intentionally created anti-Semitism and hatred against the Jewish people. They stirred the pot. Even in Iraq, they made a deal. So they made the Jews in those countries feel very uncomfortable, fear for their lives, so they could get more people to move to Israel. It's called Aliyah. You can go on Yahoo image site and see the pictures. So the diaspora was when they were dispersed all over the world. And the Aliyah, I'm just trying to make a point, for the last 100, 200 years, Jews have been recruited from all over the world to return to Jerusalem area, the Middle East, to create the state of Israel. And the Ottoman Empire in Turkey was controlling the whole Middle East, the Ottoman Empire. So that had to be taken down. And leaders from Germany and America, Britain, and other countries would not go along with annexing the Palestinians' land. And can you see why? I mean, that's a small piece of land there, but it's totally surrounded by all those Arabs. So would you tell all those Arabs you're going to destroy all of them for this small group of people who want to take over all their area? So even the president of or prime minister of Israel greeted people when they arrived. Again, you can go on Associated Press release, Yahoo image site, and see these pictures and the links and the story. That's the prime minister of Israel there. They even have special planes bringing these people in. From all over the world, they're going to move to Israel. They're moving. They've been moving. They're still moving. Back in World War I, World War II, they were doing it. There's the Israeli flag with the six-pointed star, people on a train. So my point is, this is no small effort. Going on for a very long time. The Aliyah Revolution. Meanwhile, here in the United States, they want to bring about a revolution. White lives matter, black lives matter, gays, straight, Americans building the wall with Mexico, bringing kinds of distorted news in the media, North Korea, Russia. Today, President Donald Trump, I guess, they said Congress, demanded that some of the Russians leave the country. Chinese issue. So somebody's planning on this World War III, moving lots of people to Israel and desiring to depopulate America, Europe, and the world. The joy of Aliyah. Advertisement, propaganda. Romance, Aliyah. What's interesting is you look at these people's faces. They look like people we know. So I suspect we all have the DNA that's similar. So these are pictures you can find. Families, children. Like I said, it's no small issue. And it is a religious issue. Look at the sky on the ground. And they want babies. But apparently they don't want the rest of us to have babies. The young people are ecstatic about it. Look at this. The religious ceremonies and celebrations. These are all on the Yahoo image site, Yahoo Images. Look up Aliyah or Zionism. And they're praying every day with their religious books. And see the books there? They're praying like this at the Wailing Wall, Jerusalem. Is this what's coming in the world? And like I said, it's been going on quite a while. So I have more pictures, but well, here's the whole family on their knees. Even below those horns they have there, it's a religious thing. When the people are getting off the plane, see the horn? The rebirth of Israel. So they want a new race of people on the planet. They're recruiting all the Jewish people to go back home. And I have books. This was an interesting picture. Israel 66. Advertisements for Aliyah. So I've been going over the Jewish question, the problems the Jewish people have had for thousands of years, which is not making anybody anti-Semitic. It's just an acknowledged problem, even in the Encyclopedia Judaica. These people didn't get along with other people, and not all of them. The Sephardic Jews living in Italy or Spain, France, were happy. But the Ashkenazi Jews, apparently the descendants of the Khazars from Khazaria, which are not Hebrew, very white people. And all the planning that's been going on, it's a different set of pictures here. About the international Jew, you can look it up on the Yahoo image site, and each one of these pictures has a link telling you the story behind the picture. And apparently it's not me here about some people wanting a new world order globalization, according to Simon Peres, the president you saw speaking in that picture. And some Jews are fighting the same thing because they know that Zionism does not equal peace. This guy says end of Zionism equals peace. The Zionist conspiracy, they don't want people talking. So they have to have the hate laws. They have to incite hate. Bring out their little bag of tricks. The white supremacists. Irritating, angering black people. They're getting all the groups against each other. The straights against the gays. All for some very sinister purpose. And they control our politicians. Like I said, go on Zionist, Illuminati, Alaya, New World Order, New Age, on Yahoo image site. An unbelievable amount of, and this stuff's been good, an unbelievable amount of information. And these books were published years ago. This was going on before I was born, before my grandfather was born. Here's some of the leaders. Russia, communism, Zionism. Is this a world we can expect to see in the future, besides depopulating the planet? And some of our religious leaders are in on it. Look at the six-pointed star on this guy's outfit, the swatch sticker. Look how many politicians are in on this. Again, go on the Yahoo image site where I found these and put in Zionism, put in communism, put in Illuminati. You'll find these pictures. A lot of Jewish people are fighting this. (911), who did it? Was it all part of the New Age and the New World Order? Seems likely so. Winston Churchill, look what he says. They control our leaders and even the Jewish people. Many of the authors that I've read their books, they say the protocols of Zion are real. These Jewish leaders say so. So what are we going to believe? Remember what that three-time president Simon Perez said in the video clip I showed in this video. And then they write books like The Population Bomb or Remote Viewing or Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And all those other books I showed. Plenty of people out there trying to get the word out. Jim Mars, David Icke, Michael Rupert, Crossing the Rubicon. One more group of pictures, considering we are talking about depopulating America and the world. Are they preparing for something? Why all the FEMA camps all over the United States? So FEMA camps for us and encouraging Jewish people all over the world to go to Israel. People are finding huge fields full of coffins. You can go see videos like this on YouTube. Even Jesse Ventura is visiting one of these FEMA camps. You can go watch these videos on YouTube. Just put in Jesse Ventura FEMA camp. So now you see why they bring out the White Lives Matter versus the Black Lives Matter. And the poor citizens who are involved in that, a lot of them are paid actors. Crowds for hire and stuff like that. People have made videos and noticed in these different protest parades or whatever events, the same pictures were in there. A lot of that's been exposed, like the false flag shootings and bombings. 911, they were having military exercises that day with pretend planes in the sky to fly into buildings while the actual thing happened. And Vice President Dick Cheney had the United States Air Force stand down. You don't think it was all planned? And they want everybody to believe a FEMA camp is going to be great. You go to a FEMA camp, you're probably never coming out. So if you're going to a camp to get some food and safe haven, why would they put up fences and barbed wire? I'm remembering Germany. Why would they have so many of these all over the country? And again, you can go on Yahoo image site, put in FEMA camps, you'll find these pictures, and a link to where they came from. How do you like this marketing? I'm just saying we should wake up and be aware that they're building these things. They have built them. They're waiting and ready for people. Can you see yourself in a crowd like this? Some kind of plague, some kind of economic destruction created by these people who have been creating all this other stuff? So this was all part of my education over the years. FEMA camps confirmed. Like I said, Yahoo image site. You can find these. Underground bases, underground cities. Fields and fields of these trailers. Once you get inside a FEMA camp, do you think you're ever getting out? Even President Donald Trump recently reversed an Obama law, legislation, that was preventing police and sheriff departments from purchasing more of that military-type trucks and gear. Why did President Donald Trump reverse that and say that they can now? And by the way, the federal government will probably pay for it. All right, well, I think I made my point. I got a lot more pictures here. But you can look it up on the internet and see how many they are, where they are. Apparently they even have trains like they had in Germany waiting for people. People will be treated like cattle. Here's a Church of Christ. Beware of the FEMA death camps. The Jews thought it wouldn't happen. And remember what I said. It's not all Jewish people that are part of Zionism, as you saw by the pictures. Apparently, even in the Jewish world, like any other world, you've got people who are family value, God-fearing, believing people. And you got the other people who don't think that way, don't want to think that way, and have turned towards the dark side, which seems to include Lucifer's satanic rituals involving some kind of beings they've made deals with, whether they're Anunnaki, Palladians, reptilians, gray aliens, whatever, building underground facilities, building FEMA camps on the surface, promoting all the propaganda to get the Jews to move back to Israel, meanwhile giving us books like this that they want to depopulate the planet. All right, back to the book. Try to finish up this video. So the author, Dr. Paul Ehrlich, who is connected to some other seemingly, in my opinion, sinister books about turning our world into a communist world. By sex education, I do not mean courses focused on hygiene or presenting a simple-minded birds and bees approach to human sexuality. But we can see what they do promote with all that propaganda: homosexuality, gay marriage, transgenderism, multi-sexed bathrooms and all that. Somebody is intentionally changing our world. Does anybody doubt that? I've showed the books, even the Freemasonic magazine, The New Age. The reproductive function of sex must be shown as just one of its functions, and one that must be carefully regulated in relation to the needs of the individual and society. Much emphasis must be placed on sex as an interpersonal relationship, as an important and extremely pleasurable aspect of being human, as mankind's major and most enduring recreation. Wow. So sex ought to be mankind's major and most enduring recreation. So the seventh commandment is, thou shalt not commit adultery. In Sodom and Gomorrah, apparently God destroyed a whole city because the homosexuals were trying to have sex with anybody who even came into the city. A couple angels came in there to visit, forget the guy's name, Abraham? Anyways, the whole crowds came to these guys and wanted to know them. So the Sodom and Gomorrah city was destroyed. What do you believe? You can believe what's in this book, what it says here. I'm reading it. Page 140. So mankind's major and most enduring recreation, as a fountainhead of his humor, as a phenomenon that affects every aspect of his being. Well, I don't think being obsessed with sex is a good thing. That's just me. Contrary to popular mythology, sex is one of man's least animal functions. First of all, many animals and plants get along without any sex whatsoever. They reproduce asexually. It is clear from biological research that sex is not primarily a mechanism of reproduction. It is a mechanism that promotes variability. In many organisms which do have sexual processes, these processes occur at a stage in the life cycle that is not the stage at which reproduction occurs. And of course, no other animal has all of the vast cultural ramifications of sex that have developed in human society. So I'm remembering Frankism and Sabbatism in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's books, To Eliminate the Opaque, Your and My Belief in God. And they were worshiping this other deity. And part of the religious ceremonies was group sex, orgies, and stuff like that. So who do you think wrote this book, if that's what they promote? The opposite of God's commandments. In short, sex as we know it is a particular human activity. Well, I beg to differ. You ever seen a bull and cows and horses, etc., dogs? The whole population. Fish, chickens. It has many complex functions other than the production of offspring. So there we got to the point, the crust of the matter. These are the people promoting and bringing us the New Age agenda of alternate sexual lifestyles. Anything goes, bisexuality, transgenderism, pansexualism, sex with anything. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind being a girlfriend or being married. I think it's a great thing for people. I'm just not a big supporter of people being promiscuous with anybody, people they don't know and everything. AIDS epidemics, other kinds of hygienic problems and illnesses. It has many complex functions other than the production of offspring. It is now imperative that we restrict the reproductive function of sex while producing a minimum of disruption in the others. So they want to restrict the reproduction function of sex while producing a minimum of disruption in the others. So they want to promote sex as a recreational activity. I guess that works fairly well for gay couples. Fortunately, there are hopeful signs that the anti-human notions that have long kept Western society in a state of sexual repression no longer hold sway over many of our citizens. So I know back in 2008, when I was driving from Florida to Maine into North Carolina, listening to late night talk shows, it was 35% for gay marriage and 60-70% against. And the announcer said on the radio, Americans are just not going to go for it. And I remembered the Florida lottery. When it failed, the commercials kept coming, money for the schools and all this other stuff, happy people winning something. So 4 or 5 years later, it passed. So they do know how to re-educate we the people. A lot of people are weak-minded or just tired of it and say, I don't care. So the people controlling our planet, bringing us the new age and the new world order, know very well what they're doing. They've done a lot of homework studying the mind control techniques, taking over the school systems, medical system, movies, theaters. We've seen the movies. So inch by inch, they kept going up until they got gay marriage. All intentional. They wore society out. Took them 100 years. They had congressional hearings on these issues in 1910, 1920. With a rational atmosphere, mankind should be able to work out the problems of de-emphasizing the reproductive role of sex. So again, they want to depopulate the world, and then of course they're going to populate Israel, which they're doing with the program of Elijah, who not too long ago only had a few thousand people and now have the millions. You can clearly see that's the case. They're not trying to suppress that population. As a matter of fact, they have to get more room for a greater Israel. That you can go on Yahoo image site and type that in, Greater Israel, and you'll see the maps. So they have to depopulate Syria, Iraq, parts of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, that whole area. And there's plenty of books that they plan on globalization. Even that President Simon Peres of Israel said that in that clip on this video. These problems include finding substitutes for the sexual satisfaction which many women derive from childbearing, and finding substitutes for the ego satisfaction that often accompanies excessive fatherhood. Excessive fatherhood. A rational atmosphere should also make it easier to deal with the problems of venereal disease and of illegitimacy. The role of marriage would become one of providing the proper environment for the rearing of wanted children. All too often today, marriage either provides a license for sexual activity or a way of legitimatizing the results of premarital sexual activity. If we take the proper steps in education, legislation, and research, we should be able in a generation to have a population thoroughly enjoying its sexual activity while raising smaller numbers of physically and mentally healthier children. The population should be relatively free of the horrors created today by divorce, illegal abortion, venereal disease, and the psychological pressures of a sexually repressive and repressed society. Much, of course, needs to be done, but the support for action in these directions is becoming more and more common in the medical profession, the clergy, and the public at large. If present trends can be continued, we should be able to minimize and in some cases reverse social pressures against population control at home and to influence those abroad in the same direction. 1968 they wrote this book. America's population is declining. Europe's population is declining. They have long parades of Africans marching up in through Europe and shipping people from the Middle East and Africa into the United States in the middle of the night, from my research. So what's the deal here? Are they trying to rid the world of Christianity? Was Jesus the Messiah? And what do they want with this Jewish utopia? What kind of God do they have? We know they're trying to rebuild King Solomon's temple. They're expecting a king Messiah. Will it be an Antichrist? What's it got to do with Palladians, Orions, Arcturians, reptilians, gray aliens, UFOs, secret black government projects into biological warfare, chemtrailing, sky spraying, electromagnetic weaponries, mind control, monitoring everybody, spying on everybody, creating terror events, shootings, bombings, 9/11, World War I, World War II, and so much more. Who are you going to believe? The New Age magazine I showed you, which says New Age on it, all those books I've gone over, the politicians, the leaders who talk about a global world. How is a global world going to work? If one part falls apart or has a problem, does that mean the whole world falls apart? Is that what they want? I think there should be many parts. And if one part falls down, the other part should help that part. You don't need one global, egotistical, antichrist deity, reptilian or whatever, satanic, ruling the world. What is going on? Anyways, I've been doing a lot of book reviews and reading books going on 13 years, watching videos, magazines I've purchased, Nexus and other ones, press releases. I've been paying attention. And none of this appears to be my imagination. There is a plan. The FEMA camps are not imaginary. 30,000 guillotines the government purchased. Look it up on the internet, YouTube. Don't believe me. But if you start to know the truth, people will ridicule you, tell you you're making it all up. Go back on your medication. You're paranoid. And some people who know too much, Seth Rich, is that his name, and many others, have been assassinated. President John Kennedy, presidents of Costa Rica, Panama. Look what they did to the leaders of Iraq or Libya, dragging them through the street. I guess it's easy to rile up the citizens. They're just not aware or awake. that they're being used. Like in the White Lives Matter issue, those people weren't part of the general population, me or you. In the organized Black Lives Matter, all the black people are not hating white people, and all the white people are not hating black people. White people like me don't hate Jewish people or don't hate gay people. I think things should not be controlled by the government. And I'm not a fan. I don't want this new age and new world order. If I want to believe in God and Jesus, I should be allowed to. I just knew something was going on when I got on this investigation back in 2005. When I went down to Costa Rica, sitting at a tiki bar in the Pacific Ocean, when I had a big 5-0 birthday. And they told me something. I was the only American at the tiki bar. Of course, this enlightened atmosphere does not exist today. Potent forces still must be overcome if we are to get the attitude of our government changed in the area of population control. Although the performance and attitudes of American Catholics relative to the use of birth control are similar to those of non-Catholics, conservative elements in the church hierarchy still resist change. The degree to which this resistance goes against the attitudes of American Catholics was revealed in a Gallup poll taken in late 1965. Of the Catholics questioned, 56% expressed the opinion that the Church should change its opinion on methods of birth control, while 33% thought it should not change. So I can't believe any of these polls they take. Depends where you take the poll. And, you are paying these people, and if you don't give them the poll they want, they're not going to pay you. Opinion among intellectual Catholics seems even more heavily in favor of the change in the Church's position. Recently, Pope Paul VI formed a commission to study in detail the question of birth control. The major opinion of this commission was that the practice of birth control by means other than those involving abortion was wholly consistent with the Catholic view of marriage and sexuality, that the method of birth control to be used can best be decided by the couple concerned. This opinion, the Commission felt, fit directly into the teachings on responsible parenthood of the Second Vatican Council. All right, I'll read for a few more moments and wrap up this video. My point is during my 13 years of research, reading books, this was one of the books that I read and acquired back then. I never made a video on it. I have too many books I was making videos on. Got like 1,000 books. I think I've covered about 200 of them. So you just got to pick and choose on the topics you want to talk about, trying to find the common denominators connecting the dots to what the heck is going on. And this just fills in another spot on the picture, like putting a puzzle together. Since this report should have dissolved any fears the Pope may have had about contraception, it is a mystery to informed Catholics why it has not acted. Now remember, a book like this is propaganda. They're trying to promote this thing, trying to scare the rest of us. That the world is going to pop like a balloon because there's too many. We're going to run out of everything. No more milk, no more water, no more bread. Can't even feed the cat. When it's not true. They've had to bring in people. Immigration is off the chart from India, the Middle East, and all over the world into America to do work on farms and other jobs because we have an elderly population. And a good portion of Americans are about to die in the next 10 years because they're old. After World War II, we had a population explosion. 2 people had 8 or 9 or 10 kids. Do the math. All those people born in 1960, 1970, 1976, whenever it started to slow down, add 60 years onto that, 70 years, and you're at today. These people have been dying a lot lately. So that big population expansion after World War II is about to collapse. Baby boomers. That's why they had the 2008 stock market crash, in my opinion. They took a lot of money away from a lot of people and forced all those people who were going to retire to stay in the workforce. They had to. They were about to get a big jump like this of people on Social Security. The things you don't know. But if you think about it, do the math, look at the chart. And you can find this information on the internet and books. So what do you think? The earth is running out of resources? Do you believe the propaganda? Why are all the Jewish people, many of them, returning to Israel called Aliyah? Some of them paid $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Anti-Semitism created in many countries to encourage them to leave. They didn't want to leave. So it's not all the Jewish people. But it is some people vying for a new age and a new world order. And they do plan on designing some kind of new human being. And it seems to be involved with the UFO alien issue. I got many books on the topic. We'll be going over that. They got all those FEMA camps. They want to disarm we Americans. They're creating all these incitement, hate speeches, activities, protests, riots, parades, demonstrations. Why? Meanwhile, what's going on in Syria and other parts of the world? We don't know because our government, the media, do not tell us. So it's a personal issue for each of us to try to get informed. Since this report should have dissolved any fears that the Pope may have had, a Catholic colleague, Dr. John Thomas, recently wrote to me. My first duty as a Catholic is to do what I believe is morally correct. There is no doubt in my mind that the position of the Church with respect to birth control is morally wrong. The price of doctrinal institution or unworkable methods of birth control is high. It contributes to misery and starvation for billions, and perhaps the end of civilization as we know it. Oh my. And I disagree with the population numbers. They have an agenda, and it's not to just reduce the population and have a fair and balanced world for all of us. There is an elite utopia coming, like the Hunger Games movie. As a scientist, I also know that Catholic doctrine in this area is without biological foundation. It is therefore my duty both to myself and to the Church not to ignore this doctrine, but to do everything within my power to change it. After all, without drastic worldwide measures for population control in the near future, there will be no church anyway. If the Church, or for that matter, any organized religion, is to survive, it must become much more humanitarian in focus. If it does, the theology will take care of itself. So they don't want a lot of people to believe in religion anymore. But what religion are the people over there in Israel? The picture I showed you earlier with all those people praying over there, even on the Wailing Wall, putting their head up against it and making all of our political leaders go there and pray on this wall also. What about all the satanic symbolism and all the secret societies, Freemasonry, Skull and Bones, Illuminati, the Kabbalah, the mysticism? They wanted to put that archway of Baal, the devil, in London and New York. And later on, I found out they were trying to put 1,000 of them all over the world. An archway, a door, with symbols. You suppose it's some kind of ritual, a portal into the demonic world? Do I really want to think that? Well, my education has led me to the point there's something to these Palladians, Arcturians, Anunnaki. What's with the planet X, pole shift, earthquakes, sustainability, biodiversity, terrorism, economic destruction, 9/11, World War I, World War II? And I could go on here for a while. All these are hopeful signs, but unhappily, the church hierarchy and certain conservative Catholic groups are still hard at work to raise the death rate by fighting effective moves to lower birth rate. So they're saying the Catholic Church and other religious organizations are raising the death rate by not cooperating to depopulate the planet. I think Bill Gates, one of his videos on YouTube, says that he believes the vaccines will help get the population under control. I mean, he's going to use the vaccines to kill children? And how many other famous people have said things like that? You can look them up on YouTube videos. It takes a great deal of patience for a biologist familiar with the miseries of overpopulation to read through documents that represent the views of even enlightened Catholics. For instance, consider the views of Dr. Donald Barrett, professor of sociology at Notre Dame, married and father of 10 children. Dr. Barrett testified before Senator Goering's subcommittee on March 2, 1966. The testimony was given on a bill to coordinate and disseminate birth control information upon request. Dr. Barrett makes the strong point that action in population control must avoid government coercion. He makes the distinction that the Catholic Church in this matter is only morally cohesive. He is unwilling to cooperate with any group which supports abortion and sterilization as birth control methods. So they want to bring about this new type of human being. They do talk about transgenderism. They are bringing us the 5G network. Everybody has cell phones or one kind of wireless device or another. We're being integrated into a giant machine. So it seems. He puts much weight on refinements of the rhythm method, which is patently hopeless as a population control method. Much emphasis is put on the licit methods. The moral coercion of the church is present in veiled threats to the subcommittee not to take positions that would prevent a consensus acceptable to the Catholic Church. Barrett's testimony was notably free of comment on the physical cohesiveness of starvation, plague, and thermonuclear war. Nor does he comment on the human values that will be lost when civilization goes down the drain. I wonder what Barrett thinks of his church's role in keeping help in the form of contraceptive education and devices from those miserable people in Colombia. Why are there miserable people in Colombia? Seems like the mafia types have taken it over. It's a beautiful, lush, tropical place. Those people have been there for a long time. If left alone, they would be doing quite fine. But read that book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and the promises of great wealth to the leaders, and the natives who got in the way of damming up their streams and rivers and tearing down their national forest, those natives were just machine gunned, arrested, killed in one form or another, and now live in slums in many places. So all that effort to take over all the countries all over the world for this new age and new world order has really destroyed a lot of areas. So now they tell us about sustainability, biodiversity, and going green. What you gonna believe? These are the same people who destroyed everything. These are the same people who brought us 9/11. These are the same people, to me, that killed President John Kennedy. These are the same people who brought us World War I, World War II. One little bit more here. How hollow his talk on moral cohesion would sound down there. You might note that if Barrett's descendants continue his rate of propagation for just 10 generations, they would number in the 10th generation 10 billion people, 3 times the entire population of the earth today. So lots of fear going on here. I did want to make a review of this book that I read years ago. Thank you for watching my video. Go to my website on the left-hand side, rickmiracle.com, and you can get a list of my videos. 3 pages like this, 150, and all the part 1s and some videos up to part 12. On the right-hand side is a donate button where it says item. Just put in donate and donate some money to my cause so I can further continue my investigation and grow. So thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.